Hello, and welcome to my podcast where the dark corners are. Hello. I am Vina, and I am your Dark Travels hostess. Tonight, we're going to crack open our paranormal passport and head to the capital of Finland, the city of Helsinki. Now, just to forewarn everybody, I don't know why, and I don't know how, but for whatever reason, even though it's Helsinki, in my mind, and for all of my life, which is very short years, not too long, I'm not that old, I've always thought it was Helsinki. So if I accidentally say Helsinki, just go with it. I'm not meaning any disrespect. For some reason, that's the word that I've always called Helsinki. I don't know why. Anywho, so getting back on topic, in doing some of the research for different countries and countries that I'm actually not too familiar with. I'm not Finnish in any way possible. So sometimes I'll do some light reading on the country if I'm not familiar. And if, one of the things to be kind of keep in the back of your mind is if the United States doesn't have an outstanding history or a lengthy history or any type of history with certain countries, then I don't really hear too much about that particular country. So my point is that sometimes I'll do some light research on the country because it's like, I don't know anything about this. In fact, I can't even pronounce the capital right. So that should tell you a little history contact we have with Finland. Now, yes, I'm actually pretty much aware that during World War II, Finland kind of made a deal with the devil. They kind of signed up with the Nazis. But to be fair, to kind of show the bigger picture, apparently Russia likes to invade Finland a lot, likes to take their land. So when the Nazis were like, we're about to start some shit, Finland kind of saw this as an opportunity to get back the land that Russia took from them. So it's kind of, you know, you're in this rock in this hard place, and it's the devil you don't know, or the devil you do know, kind of scenario. But everyone knows how I feel about fucking Nazis. So either way, moving on. Let's talk about Helsinki. Believe it or not, Helsinki is actually built on top of a lot of old cemeteries. Finland, a lot of Europe, is very old. Okay. So, of course, this is going to be perfect for a lot of the paranormal activity or what have you that is, going on in Helsinki. So, let's talk about our first stop. The first stop is the Finnish National Theatre. And if you look at the pictures, okay, it's this massive building that looks actually foreboding. It's actually right next to the Helsinki railway station. And this building was created for the theater company that was established in 1872. And this particular building was built in 1902. And honestly, looking at it, had I not known that this was a Finnish theater, I would have said that this is either an American prison or an American asylum. But either way, this theater is very haunted. It is believed that at least 6 ghosts are living their best afterlife in this theater. There is a variety of things happening with these ghosts. There's Alda Alberg, who apparently is walking around looking for her diary. There is Beretta Lindberg, who likes to hang out in the women's restroom. There is Carlo Bergholm, and he likes to stay in the backstage area. But the one ghost that captures, I guess you can say, the spotlight here at this particular theater is Urho Samarsali. I'm not very good at foreign languages. Everybody knows this. Now, this guy likes to wander the halls, and if he sees you see him, he's out. He's like, I'm done. No. But if you catch sight of him, you might actually notice something very scary yet interesting about his particular ghost. Urho is a ghost that likes to wield an axe. Yes. Yes. So here's the story of Urho. Urho was actually a very popular actor in his heyday. He did actually work for the Finnish National Theatre for about 50 years in the years between 1908 and 1958. And he was like the guy. He was the romantic lover, like Cary Grant, or like the hero who came through at the end. So these are the roles. He was, very well known, very well liked. He was very handsome. He was married to another actress by the name of Ali Samarali. Again, mispronouncing last name. And they lived and acted. Theater was their life. However, in 1962, when he was 72 years old, Urho decided to kill his wife with an axe. In fact, the axe that he used to kill her was actually a gift from the Finnish Actors Union. I'm not sure what that's all about. I don't know if it was like his famous role was Viking or whatever, but axes? Okay, all right. I'm not Finnish, so I don't understand that. But either way, he axes her to death, and she was younger than he was, and very beautiful. And then he decided to hang himself from a ceiling lamp hook and, made the final decision there. Now, of course, there is speculation as to why, and obviously one of the forerunners is that he was suffering from a mental illness. But either way, his ghost is the ghost that is bound carrying this weapon that he committed this heinous act with. Now, in addition to Urho, there is a gray lady in gray, and they believe that she is wandering throughout the building looking for a script. So, lots of activity going on, dead and alive activity going on at the National Theatre. So, moving from the theater, let's talk about the Bergher House. This is actually a museum, and it is believed that this particular house is the oldest house made of wood in the city. And the purpose of this museum is to give people the opportunity to experience what life was like living in a house of kind of middle class, upper middle class of the 1860s and 1870s of Finland. Its original owner was Alexander Wickham the Burger. I don't know what that means. Wickham was also the head of Helsinki's fire brigade when he bought the house in 1859. And while he was living his best life there, one of his favorite things to do was to sit on a small boulder in the garden of the house. And when he died, because he loved sitting here, this was like his thinking place, someone got the bright idea of moving this boulder and placing the boulder at his actual gravesite. Well, once that happened, paranormal activity started kicking up around the house. And it was like, what the fuck? So they decided, someone probably put it together, the boulder needed to be put back so that probably Alexander can still enjoy his garden in the afterlife. Because once they returned the boulder, the paranormal activity stopped. But, I mean, either way, as a museum, you get the opportunity to kind of see what Finland was like, again, in the 1860s and the 1870s. Now, one of the things I do like to do when I provide these, itineraries is to give a variety of different places you can go, check out, museums, theaters, but also eat. So let's talk about the restaurant Capabelli Ravitola. Yeah, I probably mispronounced that. Anyways, this restaurant was open for business in 1867, and it literally became a hotspot for people who were like the main artists of Helsinki. And it became a meeting place, a drinking place where famous artists, Finnish authors, poets came. They talk, bounce ideas off, get drunk. So there is lots of energy at this particular restaurant. Now, they do believe that the primary ghost of Ravitola is Joseph Wolantis. Now, Joseph, he actually operated the restaurant between the years of 1883 and 1904. He was from Lithuania, but while he was running the restaurant, just all these famous people would come and stay. And part of the attraction was Joseph had built a cooling beer cellar. So what that meant was on the hot summer days, he was able to serve cold beer at his establishment. And that was important because, have you tried warm beer? That shit is nasty. So he actually ended up having a monopoly because people loved coming to get the cold beer. People loved coming and seeing the famous artists, and the famous artists loved seeing each other. And in addition to that, he also kind of was like, you know what? I have this idea. I'm going to start serving free breakfasts every Monday for those who are hungover from all the partying over the weekend. So after drinking his cold beer and getting a hangover, they can come over on Monday morning for a free breakfast. And it was a huge hit. And again, people just loved coming here. Now, they believe he is now haunting the building because it has lost its monopoly. It's lost its status of popularity over the years. And despite this, though, he does like to hang around. He's playing games. He'll move furniture around. And he's like, I'm here. Y'all need to step up your game. I had famous people here. Y'all fix this. So Joseph is like, failed. All right. So let's talk about hotels. Hotel Camp. Hotel Camp was built by Carl and Maria Camp in 1887. And Carl was actually like a well-known restaurateur person. And this particular hotel was very refined. Like, it was considered to be very refined, like the most refined in Finland. It apparently had a operating elevator and electricity. And because of how fancy and bougie it was, very famous people would come and stay here. And Maria was like very on top of it. She was very good at taking care of it. And to this day, it is believed that she is the one still haunting and, well, checking out. She's making sure shit's getting done at her hotel in the afterlife. So they believe that she's roaming the corridors, she's riding the elevators, and to play a trick in the afterlife, she likes to lock the doors, from the inside. And if somebody's forgotten the door, especially the housekeeping, she likes to close it with a bang. So she's like, you guys need to stay on top of this because, I worked my ass off for this hotel. But like I said, this hotel was considered to be the hotel in Finland. In fact, the Emperor Hirohito of Japan has stayed here. Queen Noor of Jordan has stayed here. Elton John, Sharika, Madonna, those people, they have stayed there. And this hotel is so fancy, bougie. I guess I say that word wrong. That it is surrounded by very expensive shops, fancy cafes. It kind of sounds like, I don't know if Rodeo Drive is still a thing here in America because I don't fucking care, but it kind of sounds like in its heyday, this hotel is on Finland's Rodeo Drive. Now, one of the cute little open spaces, if you will, that Helsinki has is the old church park. Like I said before, a lot of Helsinki is built on top of graves. And this particular park is no different. So one of the things that happened in 1710, so we're talking 300 years ago, a plague had struck Helsinki. And the sad part is it literally wiped out over a third of their population. That's how bad this plague was. And so what they did is they just dug up these big pits and dumped the bodies in. Today, it's a park. People go and enjoy it there. In fact, they host small events. But without a doubt, it is definitely a place where people are buried. And, that's the kind of thing about Finland, the kind of curious thing that I was reading about. Finland has had a lot of plagues, have a lot of famine, a lot of problems. In fact, in 1695 to 1697, all of Finland apparently had a very severe famine. And because of it, because there was no food, a third of the population, and we're talking an estimation of 150,000 people died in this famine that happened. And it was a combination of cold summers, warm winters that caused the harvest to rot, that caused flooding, that caused all these problems. And unfortunately, it left a vast population to starve to death. In fact, there's even some talk that people resorted to cannibalism because of the lack of food. And no judgment, because, there's a huge story on the Donner Party here in California having to resort to the same decisions. All right. So, I don't know. It's really sad to read that when you're going to have turkey today. So either way, let's talk about something else cheerful. Let's go back to the theater, the Alexander Theater. Now, as I kind of mentioned before with the fucking Nazis, it seemed like Finland's had a lot of engagements with the Russians. Russians been coming over a lot, probably not wanted, going back, getting kicked out kind of scenario. Well, in 1880, they built a theater, and it was named after the Russian Emperor Alexander. And the building was actually initially used as barracks theater for the Russian military. Again, the Russians. And it evolved. It was kind of like a theater for the opera, because the Russians love their opera. But the stones that they had utilized to build the opera house was actually stones from the fortress of Bomasaran in Alin. And apparently, this particular fortress was bombed during the Korean War. And, people died in that fortress. So people got a little attached to the materials. So when the Russians picked up the materials and brought them to Helsinki, guess what? Someone rode along, a Russian military ghost. And he's a big fan. He loves to sit around, especially when the actors are rehearsing. The actors can see something in the audience that doesn't belong there. And there was even an instance where a director felt someone tapping him on the back when, again, nobody was there. Even an audio technician had the same experience. Tapped on the back, turned around, nobody was there. And they've even seen this ghost, this Russian military ghost guy moving about. The actors have. And in one instance, these children were practicing their ballet in a separate room of the theater when they came out screaming that they saw a pair of military boots floating in the air, just all random, because the goats like to mess with the kids as well. So if you get an opportunity, Helsinki is definitely a place you want to check out. And you have the opportunity to check out not one, but two theaters, as well as a restaurant and a hotel. Now, one of the houses considered to be the most haunted is a place. This is like a 12-letter word, guys. So, let's just be honest. I'm not going to get this right. The Tuomarikolaua Manor, which was built in the 1700s by a treasurer in the army, a gentleman by the name of Johannes Wickham. And this particular house is considered to be a very beautiful place, but it is haunted by the child of the first owner, Johannes's daughter, Natalia Kavalev. And in addition to her, I'm not exactly sure if it's her in different forms in her life, but there's also an elderly woman that likes to hang out in the attic as well as the park, checking out the sights, I'm sure, seeing what the kids are wearing these days. Who's Pokemon Go? I don't know. I don't play it. So that was the other thing when we were talking about earlier about like the plagues and the starvation. It was literally one of the Russian czars, again, because they were trespassing, thinking they fucking can just take things over like Ukraine. One of the czars actually gave permission to move some of the cemeteries because the city was expanding and they needed more room. But sometimes they just resorted to building the city on top of the graves. And that's how it was. But that happens in a lot of places too. So no judgment there. All right, so that is Helsinki, and I'm surprised. I really kind of kept it together there for the most part. No Helsinki. So, all right, that is what I have for you tonight. On to business. Facebook. We have a Facebook page, and if you are curious and or interested and would like to join, send us a request. But if you have a topic or a town or a city that you would like us to delve into or have Sierra cover a serial killer, let us know. Or if you have a topic, sometimes I come up with these crazy topics off the top of my head. I'm like, I am a little brilliant, but not always. Sometimes not always. Anyways, okay. So until next time, please remember, only the few can find the beauty in the darkness, which is where we hope to meet you, where the dark corners are.